Привет всем! Welcome to the first part of the Zvezda Hercules. From the intro sequence, you obviously know which version we're going to do, so no surprises there. Okay, as you can see, I've been very busy, and I've basically assembled the entire thing. Now, two very important purposes to this. One, I heard that all these aircraft boys love to assemble their stuff with tape, then let it rest for a few months and then build it. So I followed the same sort of ethos myself. Well, actually, what I wanted to establish, this fit here, the upper wing to the fuselage, and it's really tight, it's really nice, and actually I've seen some other builds and they follow the same thing. It's going to make things a lot easier for us. Basically, we'll be able to paint this massive wing, which is like over the length of the fuselage, you know, separately, and then joining it on at the end, which is just going to make things a little bit easier when it comes to the painting. Okay. If you've seen my review videos, I've reviewed the kit. It's well covered elsewhere as well, so you can get lots of details about the kit. So on this build, we aren't going to do the Spectre, we're doing the RAF, and we're going to try and build it more or less out the box. We've got some aftermarket resin wheels, no big deals there. We've got the 3D riveting and doublers and all that stuff. That's going to go on. I want to see how that works. I've never done anything like that. Afterwards, after the review, I bought 2 of the 3 photo-etched sets from Micro Design. Yeah. Now, I chose the exterior because it's got all this cargo bay detail and bits and pieces like that. So I want to use this because the ramp's going to be a big feature of the model. Yeah, sorry. This is the interior, this is the exterior, and it's got a few bits in here that I was interested in, some details for the engine, and I think it's got the cargo door on there as well. We'll have a look at the instructions, we'll build all this up anyways. Not likely I will use everything because I don't think everything's needed for the build. So as I said, basically out the box, I love Hercules, but I don't know that much about them. So guys, and I know there's loads of experts out there, feel free to comment in the section about extra details that I've missed out. Of course, I've probably passed by that point in the build. However, you can help others. I welcome that sort of critique. People who can point out details and things that need to be done, and special things about the RF Hercules. I know that the interior's got a special fit out, you know, using rollers. They had a set, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to build mine basically more or less out the box. I won't have the toilet in and bits and pieces like that. Also, as you've noticed, I didn't buy the third photo-etched set. Third photo-etched set is for the, obviously for the crew cabin, cockpit area, and basically it's just down to the fact that you can't see any of it. So I just didn't see any point at all in buying that. So let's get on with this. I don't know how many parts this is going to be in because I'm just going as things happen, but I want to basically get the interior built up for you, some of the photo etch, and I'll definitely be digressing from the instructions. It's just the way I build things. So let's crack on with this build. Okay, here's my build update, how far I've got to. I think I spent about 2 or so hours just flying through construction on this. It is going together very well. Actually, I'm just going to give you a demonstration of that. The fit of parts where you think that might be problematic. Well, these nacelles that have the undercarriage bays, there's a few parts that make that up. These just clip on, like so. They're just such a nice fit. There is going to be a bit of a seam, but it's not going to be on that top edge, it's just going to be on the bottom, and that's where you just do your filler. But I am very impressed. Anyways, yeah, my philosophy with this, I'm trying to work out the painting as I go along. I like to try and, being sort of armour type guy, I like to try and get all my painting done in one go, more or less. So, yeah, I won't be painting the cockpit as per as per references, as per the instructions. which all that has to be multicolored if you follow the instructions. I'm going to paint the cockpit sort of one color, like a blue-grey or a grey, and the cargo bay area will also get, you know, sort of a similar type color inside there. Like I'll probably use the zinc chromate and then mask off and paint the load area separately. But I've separated out a few components. I've sort of boxed them up here. So like the seats and bits and pieces, these will be painted separately, the appropriate color. I've got all the flight crew assembled as well. So maybe, who knows? Might be worth, yeah, I think it might be, it sort of seems better to me to invest the time painting the crew than it does the actual cockpit area. You just won't see it. You're going to see the access area through the boarding sort of hatch there, but in terms of the flight deck, it's just not visible, just the way it is. So, however, anyways, kudos to Zvezda. They have got a detailed flight deck. You have to make some modifications to the interior because they're bringing out a stretch J version later on. So these parts are over long, so you snip them off. That's the top of the cargo bay area. I'm going to show you how I've been doing. I've also been making sure that I've been fitting in the correct parts for version 5, the RAF version. I did make the mistake of fitting the wrong part, even though marking it up, and having to pop it out again. God knows, modelling, eh? Anyways, other parts that I'm quite impressed with are, here's the fuselage interior. Looks very bare, nothing to it. As you add in components, it starts to really look like a Hercules cargo bay with all the sort of matting. You can enhance all these areas for sure. Now, I have to add photo etch in some of these. I'm going to have a look at that tonight. I'm going to have a look at the photographs of this area up here, because I know there's some piping and bits and pieces run through there. So I've got some ideas maybe on what I might add or may not. Depends how I feel. Now, yeah, I'll just show you how this works as well in terms of fitting in all the interior component. I was thinking, how's it going to go in? Is it going to be solid? And it actually does. It actually sort of clips into place when you get it right. Just everything lines up. Even though there's all these separate components, everything lines up perfectly. It really is good. So that's it, yeah. And in terms of, obviously, as we build these things, continually dry fitting. So I've got confidence in the way that everything goes together, which is really nice that we have that, you know, especially with, you know, a cockpit, cargo bay. You can sort of see in through there. There's not much that can be seen at all, really. But you've got confidence in the fit of things. Haven't got any issues, none at all, really. Just my own lack of skill, basically, is the usual thing. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about filling this in and rescribing it to make these panel lines look correct, because it's a fit-in part, obviously, because you've got the options for the other versions. And then you've got a gap there, no gap there. So I'm thinking about just running some filler and just redoing the panel lines in that area.
Okay, just continue doing a bit more work on the old Hercules. Main things are getting these inserts here filled in. I've had the old crack cream out. Mr. Hobby Dissolve Putty, love this stuff. This one I've started sanding and blending. That one's nearly done. It needs smoothing out. I'm thinking actually about deepening some of these panel lines now. We'll come on to that later on. Still got a little bit of work to do down here, but this area isn't really that visible. As you can see, this area is visible on the join. There's no join there, there's no seams or anything. This here, I've got a small step right there so the putty hasn't actually cut the mustard there. So I'm going to have to work that area. Maybe a bit of super glue filler, something like that. Need to solve that. On this side, I still need to sand this down, get that blended. But that's working out okay. Nothing, no big deals. I'm doing this now because obviously I need to fit in the glazing at some point, and I don't want to scratch all the glazing, having to work around this area. So I'll get this solved now. Interior portion, I've done both sides now. Let's just point something out. Yeah, I've been researching references, and the paint call-outs and the instructions sort of call for interior green, and I mentioned some colours before. They're totally off. For an RAF version, you've got a couple of options, but basically looking at light grey for the whole of the interior here, including the cargo bay, and it's sort of like a bluish grey in the cockpit type section. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. In addition to that, everything back here, actually everything, it's all quilted in anti-attenuation sort of noise reduction fabric, and that's all in the light grey colour. So even this depiction of structure here in the photo etch, there's no real point. You just don't see that. You just see everything light grey. Now my original painting plan was to take all the individual details, paint them all separately and drop them in. I thought they looked really cool like that, but there's just no point. So I'm just going to build up basically all the interior detail, put it all in there, and then work on individual pieces, which are really the bench seats and things like that, and the cockpit. So so that's it. I'm just going to point out something else now as well. Yeah, as I said, we're always dry fitting as we go along, and as you add the detail inside here, it tightens up the width to accommodate the cargo portion. The proof of that is that when we put these pieces together without the cargo section, everything snaps into place basically. Yeah, there's no gaps or anything. Well, once you line up the pins, just trust me on that. Okay, basically the back there. But when we put this in, make sure you thin out this portion here, which coincides with that sort of wing spar area, and that helps everything go together. I noticed when I joined it up, I'm thinking about this step, how I accomplish things, and you can see there's like a bit of a gap there, but when you press in the cargo bay, it sort of snaps in. You have to press that portion flat inside there, and then it all snaps together. So I need to bear that in mind when it comes to this sort of that big construction step. Photo etch as well. Photo etch, double-edged sword, particularly in anything interior wise. Now I've got that nice detail there on the cargo deck. I've worked on the ramp as well. That's got nice detail, stunning detail actually. And then also we've got some of these interior components. Double-edged sword is that whenever you add photo etch, you sometimes get it overlap the plastic portion ever so slightly, and that leads to issues. Yes, of course it does, in the fine tolerances of the model. So I'm continually dry fitting, and also it's like, you know, is it worth it adding that detail? You can barely see it. I think it goes up at the back here as like a former, and yeah, what are you going to see of that, you know? Debatable. We've also got some other components that get added in. I think like these pieces go inside there. I'm going to add them all in. Need to bend these. I'm using the I don't know what it's called. It's like a bug. I think that's what they're called. But this is the JAS version, which was only like $10. It's perfect. Let's continue with this. I'm going to basically, yeah, let's get all this interior stuff worked out, add in all the details at the back, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, I've just sunk a few more hours working at this thing. Like I said, added detail into this rear portion here. There's no point painting it separately. Also, I've added in the para doors, open position, slid up. There's a bit of the photo etch that supports the mesh or net or whatever it is behind the seats. Also screwed up as well because okay, right, this section is loose obviously, and then the other part of the pipe work goes like so. But now I've got the door in the way, so I'm just going to chop out that section on both sides. I think I can just drop this in after I've done all the painting. Yeah, I've got my paint plan more or less worked out now. I'm going to do this. A few subcomponents, but basically I'm going to blast the whole of that interior there, both sides. Blast all that interior there. Then we'll go back and do some masking and bits and pieces. Cockpit section, just one colour, like a blue-grey. I'll start painting up the ramp as well. I've got some good references on that from somebody else's build. Hollowed out the lightning holes in that step there. I think I'm going to try and add in. Oh yeah, this was the worrisome part. Yeah, this bulkhead here. I was worried. You know, even when you put these two halves together, it does actually flex because of the fit. Just adding that photo etch into there made it a little bit wider, but I'm pretty confident now everything will go together. What else have I done? Yep, okay. Polished out this section of plastic here where we filled that in, re-scribed that line using the good old alpha cutter thing. Put those lines back in, put the line back in there. There's a step here, quite a step actually, just on that portion there. Need to work a little bit more filler, but I might do that actually after the halves are together. I want to get on with the painting, so I'm going to sort of shut up now. And next portion, I think we can just actually show you some painting. Let's get on with it. Okay, as you've seen, sort of most of the base work's done. What I didn't show you actually, yeah, God, it always happens, but I ran out of paint and I had to respray inside here a different grey. Anyways, that's been done. Yeah, a bit more blue than it is grey. The cockpit area doesn't really matter, that's the way I like it. All these seats are in black. I'm going to assemble bits and pieces, get all this together, show you what that looks like. Crew, hand paint these guys. Probably do that off camera as well, show you what they look like. Obviously spent quite a bit of time on that rear cargo entry ramp, the rear ramp, because that's the bit that we can see. Anyways, we can get on with this, get it sort of glued together, and then we're going to apply a gloss coat. Okay, last step, you saw the satin varnish was applied, left that overnight to dry, added in the seats, bits and pieces like that where I could. Let's try and do the quickest ever weathering job on the interior. Bearing in mind, we're not going to see a lot of this. We're using an ammo product. We use this brown wash from Ammo of MiG. I'm going to make up a concentration just with a little bit of enamel thinner as well to dilute it down. Pour that inside there, nice dilute mix. Give that a mix. I'm going to use a massively big brush to speed things up, why not? So that's kind of dilute there, that looks about right. Okay, and then just let's go for it. Let's just apply this inside here. Just going to give it a grimy appearance. Even though you're unlikely to see it, especially this area, in this forward area, you're just not going to see that area at all. Some of this we might see, so we're going to get some depth in there by letting the wash deliberately pool into these recesses, so we can just go for that. Okay, there was a bit too much inside there, so let's just get our rag and just take up the excess, or else it just takes ages to dry out. And also we get these tide mark things as well, so just dab that out as well. Cargo bay area, just a general film on here. This definitely needed to be treated with the varnish to protect the metallics. Metallics are so delicate. Let's get some depth in there. General wash around the cockpit area. Yes, I am not even going to even try and be careful for something that I really know that we're not going to see much of. So we're going to go. I'm trying to make this model quickly, and I think I can do it. Okay, so that's that wash in there. Maybe a bit more of an application. This here, get some depth on that. Let that dry out. Now the other side. Anyways, you get the idea. No point expending time and energy on stuff that we just don't see. So this is just an idea of weathering. Believe me, we'll go into some depth later on where it counts. Trust me on that one. I like expending energy on the visible details, on things that we can get some benefit from. And get all that around there. I couldn't fit in all the bench seats because they clash with the windows. That's just the way that is. Some of that door there. There we go. I'll probably even get the hairdryer out on this to speed up the drying. Give that a wash, like so. And again, just wipe that. This cargo bay is going to get some more weathering, but let's just give it a quick light wash, just to sort of set the tone. So much detail in there. There we go. I think that's everything done. Okay, now let's start drying this off and see what it looks like after it dries. So while I've been waiting for the interior thinner to dry out, I decided to paint up the cockpit crew. Okay, not exactly my best effort, I must admit. The 1/72 scale. I haven't got a multicultural flight crew. Everybody's got white skin and brown hair, but that's just due to my lack of painting skills, to be honest. Okay, these guys just need a little bit of a flat coat, and I'll show you the interior now. I was going to flat coat this, but this is dried sort of semi-matte anyways. When you've got that layer of oil inside there, or enamel, it doesn't gloss things out. So I think I'm going to leave that. Flight deck's just got that sort of, you know, look to it. There's just not really that much detail inside these kits, but it doesn't need to be in 72 scale. So I'm just going to quickly give the crew a quick blast of this flat clear, because they do need to be toned down. They have ended up a bit gloss from painting them with the acrylics. I'll do that, and then let's glue them into position and get this sort of thing starting to get this sealed up. Okay, so most of the details have been added in. Just quickly have a look at this, including this net that goes behind the seats here. All the bench seats have been added in. The glazing's in as well. We can see a little bit of the effect there as well of that net through the windows. Looks sort of good. And on this side as well, repeated the process. Looking pretty good. All our interior is ready. So let's try and get something out of this video. If not one thing, it's the actual construction of getting these fuselage halves together. Bit of a big, bulky sort of model as well, not straightforward. So first of all, we've got quite a few pieces to deal with. We've got the two fuselage halves. We've got the upper part of the roof. We've got the cockpit area in the cargo bay. We've also got this detail portion here. Now the easiest thing to do is start minimizing the parts count. So first thing that I've done is glued in this section. So that eliminates one of the gluing steps instead of needing to jumble around with all this stuff. Okay, now let's go straight into getting this glued together. Okay, so to get this lumped together, preparation, need a few clamps and mainly tape. That's the way we're going to do that. Also glue, instead of using the extra thin, which is expensive and has got a small brush, instead we're going to use some of this plastic weld, and we've got a dedicated brush here to apply it. It just is easier with the normal paintbrush to apply this particular glue. You can get a lot more on the brush. Okay, so as I said, this fuselage section's already glued in, so that's one less part to deal with. We can put this in basically dry. We don't even need to glue this in. That goes in like so. Simple dry fit. You don't even need to cement it into place. Now let's take up the fuselage halves and start forming them up. We're going to stitch glue this together, and we're going to hold everything together with tape. It's just going to be the easiest way to do this. Instead of having to fight different areas of compression and, you know, getting certain areas lined up, this is just the easiest way to do it. So the first thing you do is get all the pins lined up, and then we're just going to tape it temporarily into position, which I'll do now. Okay, with the tape applied, everything becomes just a lot more manageable now. You're not having to fight and compress different parts and now we can start the stitch gluing process. Now the way to do this is to use pressure to sort of create the bonds. I just find that if we can get an ooze of plastic coming out, it really simplifies the seams. So we're going to start that now using the liquid glue. Okay, we're going to select the first joint. We'll go underneath this section here. Work on an area that's, well, it doesn't matter which area you work on first, but like working on an area that's, the cleanup's not as important, makes things a little bit easier. Start running the glue into the seam. Just do one section at a time. Then we're going to start applying the pressure. See if we can get some glue swidge there. You can sort of see it joining up. The other thing we want to be careful of is making sure that we don't exert too much pressure, or else you get a bulge and then you get a big step. So it's sort of a balancing act. Hold pressure on this for about 2 or 3 minutes, just until it sort of goes off. I'm just showing close up here. You can see what's going on with this joint now. Started getting a bit of a squidge coming through on there. Sometimes reapply a bit of glue just in bits and places, add a bit more pressure, and we'll start creating a really nice firm joint here. The next area we're going to go for is this tail section. We can start inserting the glue actually with this nice long brush from inside the structure. And get a nice long run in there. Be careful with your handling to try and avoid some of the glue marks. Again, exert pressure here, and then we'll clamp this one using some clamps. Next section we'll do is the nose. Just same procedure, just repeating this. There's no particular way to go, but I sort of work middle and then a front and then a back, or the other way around. Let me just do another further section. You can see it's not a quick job. It's best to take your time with this, but you have got time, because if you're only stitch gluing it in certain sections, you only need to deal with one area at a time, and it just makes things a lot easier, just on something like this big lump. As everything tightens together, it becomes easier and easier to glue. So actually you start using the extra thin, especially in this seam that runs on the top of the fuselage. You can see that the parts are already really nice and snug. You can just drop the extra thin in and try and avoid this step by just leveling this out and then just exerting a bit of pressure with the thumbs. Okay, that's basically all my stitch gluing for now. I haven't covered every single area, but I want this glue to cure off at least a couple of hours. Then I'm going to come back and just fill in the little bits and pieces. It just seems to be, it's quite an easy method to do this, rather than, what I found previously is that if I'm fighting along all the joints, trying to keep pressure on all these different points, you haven't got enough hands, and also you end up getting glue marks everywhere. It becomes just like a big mess. But just by dealing with small sections at a time, getting a firm bond, going back to the next area, getting a firm bond, it just makes things a lot easier, and also you're going to get a lot cleaner end result with your model. So we'll come back to this in a couple of hours and just complete the last bits of gluing. Okay, so basically most of this stuff's gone off now. I can remove my clamps, and it's just a case now taking off the tape. We've got these areas where we just need to apply glue, and that's what we'll do. We'll just run some glue down these seams and apply pressure. The other thing that I've done, I've just checked again this upper wing fit, just to make sure everything's all right, it's not being pulled apart, everything's fine there. The other thing that I've checked is the nose fit. We need to add some weight in there. I'll show you that in the next video. I just want to see how that looked like, see how the nose fits. Everything fares in quite well. Next video is going to cover tidy up, and also, like I said, some of these components, like this one, if you trim it out, it can just simply be glued into position within situ, just with some super glue. But I don't need to show you that. Okay, so anyways, I think we'll tail this one off. Next video should be tidying up, should be doing some more painting. Hope you enjoy this, hope you get something out of this one. Ask me any questions. As I said, anything that you want to contribute RAF Hercules wise, please feel free to do so. That's really what I want to look at, and really I think the second most important facet was actually to, no, okay, stop it.